The country, for the third consecutive day, witnessed over 2,000 COVID-19 cases as hospital facilities in places like Nepalganj have started to buckle under intense pressure from overwhelming new cases. The scenario in the past few days hints at an impending health crisis, while the government seems more engaged in power politics and publicity stunts as the premier is poised to inaugurate the newly structured Dhara amid a gala function today. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanama and these are the headlines of the hour. Bheri Hospital in Nepalganj filled to its capacity. Doctors appeal for emergency help, fearing the situation might spiral out of control anytime soon. The measures to curb infection this time around lackluster despite the nation grappling under a deadlier second wave of COVID-19. Health experts warn of impending crisis. A 19-member Central Committee of the ruling CPN UML has no place for senior-most leaders Nepal and Karnal. Action to be initiated against 4 floor-crossing MPs. And host Nepal geared up to take on the Netherlands in the finals of the T20 Tri-Series. Skipper Gyanendra Malla says boys are all pumped up for the title. Bheri Hospital in Nepalganj has been filled to its capacity and has no space for any further patients. The hospital is now finding it hard managing oxygen for emergency use to support patients in critical condition. Doctors at the hospital have appealed for emergency help, fearing that the situation might spiral out of control any time now. In the past week alone, 3 to 4 COVID-19 patients have been succumbing to the virus in Baki on a daily basis. Among the PCR and antigen tests conducted, 60 to 98% have been testing positive. The treatment of the patients has been affected following considerable rise in number of infected patients. Meanwhile, Nepalganj Medical College and Bheri Hospital have run out of beds allocated for COVID-19 patients. The lack of adequate health professionals and equipment has also hindered the treatment of coronavirus patients. The Bheri Hospital that treats critical COVID patients has been reeling under the shortage of oxygen and electricity. The number of individuals seeking PCR tests with symptoms of coronavirus have been on the rise, with over 58 COVID-19 patients in Kohalpur's Nepalganj Medical College reported in a critical condition. Moving on, the government at all levels had significantly publicized for the prevention and control of COVID-19 during the first wave of the pandemic last year. Lockdown was also imposed since the early days of the detection of the virus. However, measures this time around have been lackluster despite the nation already grappling under a deadlier second wave. Hospitals in Nepalganj, among many other places, have been thronged by coronavirus patients at the moment. The infection rate has recorded an alarming rise, while the infected individuals are in need of critical care. The hospitals have also begun facing lack of oxygen supply, and the daily caseload is over 2,500, while the rate of individuals testing positive for the virus is around 25%. In some places, all the samples collected have tested positive for coronavirus. The scenario indicates that the country is heading towards an impending health crisis. The government last year had imposed lockdown and restrictions soon as the virus was detected in the country. Local levels responded with quarantine and isolation centers, while public places were sanitized along with contact tracing. Meanwhile, it has been reported that the PCR tests these days are conducted in hospitals only when patients have serious health problems. Public places are still open while international flights are still operational. Likewise, there are unhindered cross-border movements while marketplaces, public transport, among others, have remained crowded. In the scenario, the health experts have warned the situation could soon spiral out of control. With the internal rift in the ruling CPN UML reaching its peak, Prime Minister and Party Chairman KP Sharma Oli has formed a 19-member Central Committee excluding senior-most leaders Madhav Kumar Nepal and Jhalanath Karnal. At the ongoing 10th convention of the CPN UML, the Central Committee has been elected without including any of the leaders from the Nepal faction. The 4 leaders from Maoist Centre, meanwhile, have been included in the Central Committee. Prime Minister Oli has already scrapped the standing committee that was elected from the 9th General Convention. The meeting held yesterday also decided to scrap the party membership of the 4 lawmakers who crossed the floor during the Karnali debacle and correspond with Karnali Provincial Secretariat to scrap their parliamentarian positions. Likewise, the Central Committee has also entrusted the Standing Committee to decide on the case of 27 lawmakers, including leader Madhav Nepal, regarding action to be initiated against them. The party spokesperson Pradeep Gewali also informed that the leaders of the disgruntled faction have been urged to return to the party without setting any deadline, and failing to do so will be liable for action. During the meeting yesterday, Premier Oli also spoke out about his 2 meetings with leader Nepal, saying that Nepal had no intention of uniting with the party. It's the 15th Loktantra Day in Nepal today. The day falls on the 11th day of Nepalese month of Baisakh and marks the end of monarchy in Nepal and restoration of democracy following People's Movement. On this very day, the then King Gyanendra Shah announced the restoration of the then dissolved lower house, agreeing to work as per the roadmap proposed by political parties. Following the king's announcement, the first meeting of the restored lower house had ended the monarchy and shifted the executive power of the head of state to Prime Minister. The historic 19-day People's Movement took place after a 12-point agreement was reached between 7 political parties and CPN Maoists that came fresh from the insurgency period. Later in 2015, the Constitution of Nepal was promulgated through the Constituent Assembly. The celebration for Loktantra Day, which roughly translates into Democracy Day this year, has been subdued due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in the country. Meanwhile, Dharahara, which is considered as a historical heritage of Kathmandu Valley, is being inaugurated at 11 a.m. later today. In our Public Voice segment, we've asked local residents in Dang what measures have they adopted to protect themselves from the risk of COVID-19. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
बाहिर निस्किने बेला मास्क लगाएर हामी निस्किने गरिरहेका छौं
मास्क लगाएर सेनिटाइजर हातमा लगाएर अनि साबुन पानीले हात धोएर अनि सामाजिक दूरी टाढा गरेर
कालो जिरो भन्ने त्यसको प्रयोग गर्छौं हामी अनि त्यसपछि सामान्यतः जडीबुटीहरू प्रयोग गरेर तातो पानी उमालेर मजाले अनि त्यसलाई खाने गरेका छौं
Time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what's your take on the increasing trend of revenue embezzlement by faking VAT bills? Your options are A. Habits don't go, B. Lack of monitoring, and C. Nexus between officials and businesses. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for the sports news. Host Nepal are taking on the Netherlands in the final of the T20 Tri-Series today at TU Cricket Ground. The match is scheduled to kick off at 1:15 p.m. Nepal time. Nepal finished the double round Robin League at the top position, while the Dutch team had finished second to qualify for the finals. Nepal won both their matches against Malaysia, while it was 1-1 against the Netherlands in the league stage. The Netherlands won the first match against Malaysia, while its second match against Malaysia was tied. Nepal's head-to-head equation against the Netherlands now stands at 4-3. Meanwhile, Nepal's skipper Gyanendra Malla on the eve of the final expressed confidence to clinch the trophy. The first edition of Nepal Super League kicks off from today at the capital's Dashrath Stadium. The champion will bag a cash prize of 3.5 million rupees along with trophy, while the runner-up will have to settle for a 1.5 million rupees cash prize. Kathmandu Rangers will take on Lalitpur City in the inaugural match, slated for 5:30 p.m. kickoff later today. Time now for our special segment, Media Watch.
Prime Minister and Chairman of CPN-UML, KP Sharma Oli, and Senior Leader Madhav Kumar Nepal held one-on-one meetings on Wednesday and Thursday breaking their months-long stalemate amid unstable dynamics that has led the party on the verge of a split. However, both the leaders did not reveal any information regarding the hours-long meetings. Meanwhile, Premier Oli, speaking at a program on Thursday, lashed out at the disgruntled faction, hinting that all was not well during the meetings with senior leader Nepal. A day before the start of the high-profile meetings, Chairman Oli on Tuesday sought clarifications from 27 lawmakers of the party, aiming to sack them from parliamentary posts. Meanwhile, leaders of the dissident faction, including Madhav Kumar Nepal, Jhalanath Khanal, Bhim Rawal, and Surendra Pandey, furnished their clarifications on Thursday, alleging party chairman Oli for actively being involved in party division. The dissident leaders claimed that the allegations against them were baseless and alleged Prime Minister Oli for creating conflict within the party. Senior leader Nepal, in his response, said it is unconstitutional and illegal to sack lawmakers from the parliamentary posts, alleging them of forming a new political party. Meanwhile, leaders from the Nepal faction filed a writ petition at the Supreme Court on Thursday, demanding a stay order on the possible eviction proceedings against them. The winter session of the House of Representatives, which was reinstated by the Supreme Court on 23rd of February, was prorogued on Monday after 6 weeks from the start of the session. During this period, the lower house had to bear the brunt of the ongoing tussle between Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and Speaker Agni Sapkota and failed to reach conclusion on a single bill. The government decided to end the winter session, citing the need of preparations for the budget session. This is Abhyuday Shrestha for Media Watch and Kantipur News Desk.
That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend ahead.